The music world moves fast. Want to stay up to date on the latest albums and get in-depth examinations with the artists? Check out Consequence of Sound, the podcast. Bite-sized album reviews for the music fan on the go who wants to stay in the know, and much more. Subscribe to the series on iTunes or your favorite podcast provider, and let the writers of Consequence of Sound steer you right. Check it out at consequenceofsound.net/COS podcast. Consequence Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound and the Consequence Podcast Network. If it's your first time here, or maybe you're a repeat offender and you haven't subscribed to the series, go ahead and take a moment to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening from. Maybe you found the interview on YouTube or Spotify, or maybe you're into the podcasts and checking us out on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Definitely hit the subscribe button there, as we do put out an interview 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So there's lots to keep up with. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guests are Conor Oberst and Phoebe Bridgers. You know them now as the band Better Oblivion Community Center, and their self-titled debut record landed earlier this year. I'll get to ask what the partnership has brought to each of their talents and where the whole thing began back on Phoebe's Stranger in the Alps LP. We'll try to find out how much truth there are in each of the lyrics and if they can even remember who wrote which set of lyrics. And then we'll turn our attention to the live show, which has been so much fun to follow if you've been paying attention, from the covers they've been doing, which, yes, does include Shallow, to playing each other's songs, to making it just a bigger, louder production. We'll hear about the cross-section of their multi-generational fans and try to get some good travel stories from the tour so far, as well as the future. Will there be more music from Better Oblivion Community Center? It's all in here. It's Kyle Meredith with Conor Oberst and Phoebe Bridgers of Better Oblivion Community Center.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's good to talk to you both again. I want to say congratulations on the Better Oblivion Community Center record. This has been so much fun to listen to. Fun being the operative word considering the lyrics, but it's a fun record still.
Thanks.
I don't know. Let me start out with the with what you all bring to each other's talents at this point, because I would think, regardless of how a collaboration starts, there's at least some hope in gleaming something from the other artist. Have you noticed that at any point, that you've been taking stuff from the other person?
Yeah, totally. I think Conor's a very compelling live performer, and I feel like if I, this is a recent realization, that if I even move a little bit on stage, I'll mess up a chord or something. So I hope to take that with me into my future projects.
We'll teach you how to stage dive yet.
Have you stage dived?
On this tour?
No, in general.
Oh, yeah.
How? But that's so terrifying. Why would you ever do that?
No, that's a good question, too.
But you just don't care about getting, groped?
Yeah,
I feel that's my fear.
Yeah, I don't know. Spirit moves you, jump, take that leap. No, I've learned a lot from, Phoebe, just, writing the record with her. I feel like she has she's, maybe a little bit more of, a perfectionist than I am, and she kind of, a lot of times I'll write something fast and kind of walk away, and she was really good about encouraging us to keep revising stuff and making it better. And obviously she's an incredibly gifted singer, so all the harmony stuff on the record, she would write the harmonies and then teach them to me, and so I feel like that made me a better singer. Just having to learn that and having to keep up with her vocally every night has I feel made me try harder to be a better singer, which is good.
Does the partnership go back to Would You Rather on Stranger in the Alps? Is that the first time you all collaborated?
Yeah.
Yeah, although hilariously enough, we had met once and Conor recorded his part of that song remotely. So we would end up becoming friends after. And that was we had barely hung out at all when making that song. So it's cool in retrospect. There's a permanent record of our friendship along the way.
I don't know, aside from there being truth in any lyric, then when you're writing this record together, how much of the album tells your own stories? And if it is, directly personal in any way, is it any kind of challenge to weave your own stories together like that?
I think for me, it was an experiment it was like a little bit more, it was a lot more removed from my own personal experience than anything I'd written before. I feel like that's a combo, like a strength and weakness of mine, is that I feel like I have the tendency to just like rip stuff exactly as it happens in real life. And then I feel like these themes I kind of discovered later. But I think Conor's lyrics are really personal too, so it wasn't that much of a challenge to like go there when we did go there. Like it was, I think we thought about all these like grander ideas or like concepts after making the record, and it's cool to like figure that stuff out. And it was pretty easy to like blend our two styles.
Yeah, it is interesting though, like how, we can write something together, or like a lot of the lines on the record, like, literally like I'll have started writing the line and then Phoebe will have like substituted a word or something like that. And so like even when people like ask, specifically about certain songs or lines, I'm like, I don't actually totally remember who wrote that exact part. And then when you sing it, like a lot of times we're singing together. And I think for the listener, it totally changes the dynamic of like, this is one person, confessing something to me, or like, like the personal nature becomes very like skewed when you have two voices singing the whole time, which I kind of like. I think it takes it out of that, like, confessional folk singing style.
With that, then, I would have to ask about one direct line, because it would seem like that ghost is just a kid in a sheet. One of my favorite moments on the record does seem to be self-referential, back to the Stranger in the Alps cover.
I think we thought about that later. Wow. I think we figured out that, like, and that happens a lot, where, like, maybe it was subliminal or whatever, but I feel like I find out what songs are about way after writing them, and then you're on stage, or, like, specifically with that line, I see people, like, smiling at me when we sing it, and we're kind of like, oh, that was accidental, it was just cool imagery.
That is kind of amazing, then, because it does seem so specific in that, and I don't know, it's fun for fans to kind of be able to have that little,
totally.
Even if it's a coincidental breadcrumb trail. Then I'll take the wider scope on some of the themes, maybe that you noticed later on, because when I listen to this, I do hear a lot of alienation and solitude, and if that's how you all feel about it too, it's interesting to me, because the more interviews I do in the past 2 years, those seem to be the themes that are cropping up with everybody. That's the spot we're all in. Whereas if you ever wanted to compare music to the 60s, as people tried to do a lot when the Trump era started, it's it doesn't seem like it's going that direction, where it's all, that CCR protest music. It seems like sort of the opposite, like everybody's kind of going inside.
No, I agree with you. I think, everyone is obviously, I think that's kind of, if we're looking for like bigger themes of like the record or the band or whatever, I think everyone is in like an internal kind of dialogue and struggle, and the crazier things that are happening in the world, I feel like there is a desire to like retreat from reality and from all these things. And so I think, I don't know, maybe that's the idea of like having like the word like community in the band and stuff like that, is that you, in a certain sense, even though it can feel like you're out there on your own, we are all kind of in it together, if that makes any sense. And so, but yeah, I mean, I think the themes you're talking about are very prevalent in a lot of the songs, and there is probably like a zeitgeist of the moment that everyone's experiencing, even if we don't all know about it or talk about it.
I'll turn to the live show then, because the songs have seemed to become much bigger live. Did that come after, or was it kind of a choice to keep the album in a more bare state and let it run free once you get on stage?
I think it kind of was reversed. Like, we tried to make a rock album and failed, and then when we took it on the road, it was like way easier to make it sound the way we wanted it to sound. Yeah,
I mean, I think I always like it when songs take on a different life in a live setting. I think that's pretty natural, and I think whenever you get in front of an audience, at least in my experience, there is a bit of a desire to play things faster and louder than you recorded them. I think that's just like adrenaline and just being in a room with people. But yeah, we talked about like kind of intentionally when we were getting ready for the tour, we're like, you know what, we're a couple of bad sacks with our like acoustic guitars, like too much already. So like, let's leave the acoustic guitars at home and play, make this more of like a rock show as much as we can. So been fun. I get to hit the distortion pedal a lot. That makes me happy.
Yep.
So
Have you all been trying to come up with new covers for every show, or has that just been a few of them?
I think it's just been a few for sure, but I do like in my solo shit, I actually do like a lot of regional covers. So I'll pick, like a replacement song in Minneapolis, and then we kind of just naturally leaned into that on this tour, and we, it's only one record, so we definitely knew we had to do cover songs. And then I love covering Bright Eyes. Very fun.
Were there any instant vetoes? Did anybody say, like, there's been a lot of talk, of course, about Shallow, and I don't know if that was as painful for you, Conor, as the press makes it out to be.
Well, obviously, as most good things in the world, or at least most things with our band, like everything starts as a joke, kind of, and that was one that
definitely got deep punishment for that one.
like
before and after, felt really good. Great.
Yeah, it was funny. It was like funny, and it's obviously worth it just to hear Phoebe sing the loud section. Like that part is not a joke. That's actually like affecting and fun. But the rest of it's kind of a joke.
Conor couldn't not sing it in a fake Bradley Cooper voice. It was so funny. I was like, no, us doing it is already the joke. Like we don't need to tell people that it's a joke. But then he literally couldn't not sing it in fake Bradley Cooper Eddie Vedder.
And not to be like, oh, like I don't pay attention to stuff, but I really didn't know. I'd heard that song like 3 times before we played it. I was like, I just didn't know that song. And I will say, it's like once we learned it and played it, though, it was stuck in my head for a few days. I'm like, it is a really catchy song.
But I was like, we can only do it once, because if that's something that's pretty sad. If people like look forward to it in the set.
Yeah, we were never going to do it more than once.
Yeah.
Sure.
I feel like there's something about this that leads to that banner, "It will all end in tears." It will end in tears,
Yeah, it will end in tears.
There's an audience out there for both of you all, and I'm guessing both of them come to the show as well. Do you notice that you're playing to 2 different generations sometimes of fans?
I actually did notice that. I guess when we were in Austin the other night, and I was like looking at the crowd, and I don't know, I guess I've kind of had that for a little while now with my own music, where like I guess just doing it long enough, like there's kind of like, the like whatever, like 60-year-old like NPR couple out there, and then there's still the like whatever, like 20-year-old indie rocking people, So like that has existed at my shows for a while, but obviously it's like the younger people, and like Phoebe's fans are like very rabid, and they're there in force, and you can kind of tell like when it's like, I don't know.
I really feel like the line is blurrier than I thought it would be. Like I look out in the front row, it's full of like girls with turf bangs and like really precise eyeliner, and I'm like, you could be for either of us right now. but it was, or Conor handed the microphone to a dude the other day who was singing literally every song, and I was like, oh man, I think we might actually have an intersection of Superfans where like, oh wow, he's stoked when we play a me song, or oh wow, he's like screaming the words to Easy Lucky Free. Like it's truly both of us, which is fun.
And I think there is, like, maybe it's not a huge percentage, but I do feel like there's some people that maybe had heard of us or knew a little bit about either of us, but actually just kind of heard this record and like heard, heard one of the songs and got into it, which I think is really cool that some people are still like finding out about us through like this new project,
Yeah, the brand new music. You look like you're having so much fun on stage. I do want to ask if there's been any really good travel stories that's accompanied this tour off the stage.
We've like we did like 11 shows in a row, so we've had like very few days off to like really do anything that cool, but I know we did some stuff that was fun.
Yeah, I feel like the most exciting thing we did on this tour is like see a movie, which is great. Like we've been having a blast, but this thing happens on tour that's kind of frustrating where you like, it kind of takes you all day to become a person. You're like, okay, my stuff is scattered around this weird shower room. I've got to like get it together, take a shower, show up for sound check. So like it's good and bad. We've been completely like enveloped in the music, but more so than any other tour for me, I feel like I do look forward to the show as like the fun thing I get to do, which is awesome, because sometimes on tour it can feel like it's your job. But I feel like the rest of the day is your job. The rest of the day of like not being at home and like, eating at Starbucks is what you get paid for. And then playing music is the reward.
I rode on the back of my friend's motorcycle the other night in Dallas, and I thought I was going to die. That was probably the most exciting moment.
Yeah, you texted me before and after both times, being, I think, kind of as the thing you do when you're afraid for your life and you tell your friend, like, oh my God, isn't this crazy? So I like know where to find you if you like flew off.
Yeah, that was exciting in a terrifying way.
I'm glad you didn't die. I really am.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'm invested in both of your careers so much, but I wonder from here on out, like how much I want to get invested in Better Oblivion Community Center. Like, are there more songs? Do you think there'll be more albums? Is this going to be a thing, or do you both go your separate ways at this point afterward?
Maybe we should get actual investors to like invest in the band.
In our new music.
Just start like raising capital. No, I think that, I will just speak for myself and say that I hope that we make another record.
Yeah, me too. I think there's very little like concept other than like the drop release and stuff. We really did just make a thing and then put it out. So I hope if we make more music, it'll be in that same spirit. Like we didn't sit around like Mr. Burnsing for months being like, and then it'll all come out at once or whatever. Like the spirit of it has been put it out immediately. Like we put out a single for no reason. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we keep doing that.
Remember, it only takes 3 albums to make a greatest hits. So you just got to get to 3 albums so you can cruise on the greatest hits from there on out.
Connor, we'll pull a Tom Petty and write our best song for it.
Exactly. It's been a pleasure talking to you both, Conor, Phoebe. Thank you so much again for taking the time today. I can't say enough great things about this record, and I hope to catch one of these live shows too. I'm gonna try to get out to one.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care, y'all.
Later.
And my thanks to Conor Oberst, Phoebe Bridgers. The self-titled debut Better Oblivion Community Center album is out now. Hey, before you get out of here, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening from right now. Again, whether that's on the podcasts with iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Acast, Podchaser, or if you're checking us out on YouTube or Spotify, you can subscribe and follow along there as well. After that, head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern, where you can also find some bonus episodes of this series. ConsequenceOfSound.net has your music and film news. You can find me at Twitter at Kyle Meredith and Facebook/Kyle Meredith. Does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.